I come into the plains of Croatia, where endless fields of maize stretch to the horizon on every side. Here and there the steeple of a church, shaped like an onion, rises up out of the flat landscape, its dome glittering in the summer sun, standing amidst a cluster of red-roofed houses like a shepherd amongst his flock. Bells sound over the fields in the evenings, and frogs croak in the ponds. Haystacks, freshly built, make soft and fragrant beds at night. Having awoken one morning from one of these haystacks, and walking along a stony road, a horse and cart pulls up beside me, and the old fellow at the reins motions me to jump up beside him. He offers me a cigarette, and we trot along, smoking through the glorious countryside. I know only one or two words, and one is dobra, dobra, which I say about everything around me. It's dobra, lijepa, lijepa, beautiful. And as I smoke this cigarette from the Drava cigarette, the old ones they had in those days, Drava cigarette, it was absolute bliss. And the old fellow nodding his head and smiling, whipping his horses on, and arriving in a village, he lets me down. I sit on a bench and soak up the warm morning sun. Two fellows come up and start talking to me. They're about my age, young men, and one of them, who introduces himself as Bayer, speaks almost perfect English. It isn't long before, walking through the village, Bayer insisting on carrying my luggage to his parents' house. "You'll be our guest," he says. "I'm given a little room which looks over the fields, and I can stay here as long as I like." Vrpolje is the most enchanting village I've ever known. Not that it's particularly picturesque, it's just a main street through which a stony road runs, with a church, a few shops, and a cinema. No, it's nothing to look at, though it's charming, with its little houses, its little one-story houses, with the wooden blinds which open out onto the street, and I always have to look out for because I keep cracking my head on them because I've got a rather long neck, and they weren't invented for my height to walk along. And anyway, apart from that, it's the inhabitants. I just need to walk down the street to be invited for slivovica, cakes and coffee, or lunch, or lubenica, watermelons, which they keep cool down the wells and draw up in the pail straight onto the table. Bayer, one of the biggest, heartiest, and wisest people I've ever known, is studying mathematics in Zagreb. He has to shut himself in his room to study a couple of hours every morning, but the rest of the day he gives over entirely to my well-being. He's the most attentive host and delights in taking me around the village into the homes of his friends. After 2 or 3 days staying at his parents' house and having this quite unprecedented hospitality lavished upon me, I naturally begin to feel that I should take my leave of Vrpolje, as I don't want to outstay my welcome. But Bayer won't hear of it. "It is so great pleasure to have you here," he says. "You must at least stay for the festival at Dragotino." "Oh, what's Dragotino?" "Well, on the 15th of August, there's a big religious festival at a place called Dragotino, a church on a hill, 20 kilometers from here. Everyone goes from all the villages, plenty of girls. You'll like it, you'll see." On Saturday nights, a film shown at the cinema. All the young gather in front of the doors, talking and smoking and flirting. Bayer, like the fine host that he is, makes sure that I get to know the girls of the village, introducing me to them one by one, two by giggling too. "This is Ruzica, Fall into those eyes of hers and you'll drown. And Ruzitsa laughs, looking down at the ground, then at me, her dilated pupils like wells. I can imagine drowning in them, I must say. This is Vera. She'll break your heart if I'm not mistaken. Vera smiles, curtsies. She has a blue dress, corn-coloured hair, cornflower eyes. We gaze at one another. I feel myself toppling. Come on, says Bayer, before you fall into each other. Meet Lilia here, like as to a lily of the lake. I'm impressed by Bayer's poetic description of the girl, who matches it. Blushing coyly before us, this little lily turns pink, he adds, and we all laugh. Ah, now here's Yasmin coming now. You haven't met her yet. She's my girl. Sweet 17 and mine. Bayer's father's the station master at the busy mainline junction of Vrpolje. I accompany him to the station when his father needs him to run an errand or something. On the way back, we invariably call in at a house which lies on our route. You haven't met Zora yet, says Bayer, the first time we call. She's pretty and she makes the most fabulous cakes. She lives with her grandfather, who plies us with slivovitz, while she, a lovely dark-haired girl with a simple grace and wide-open smile, delighted to see us, brings cakes steaming hot from the oven. Please come whenever you want, she says to me. I'll always have cakes for you. There's something wistful in her voice. She's lonely, says Bayer on our way back to the village. She does all the work in the house and has to look after her grandfather. She doesn't come to the village very often. She likes you, he says, turning to me. But I think you fall for the dangerous ones, like Vera. Vera's house is near the bridge at the far end of the village, where the river runs. Willow trees grow all along it, and plum trees heavy with fruit. Having been summoned, I arrive in the mornings and pay my respects to her, for in every way she invokes that response from a man, being as she is, close to a goddess. As she languishes on her divan, smoking her long cigarettes and drinking Turkish coffee, she has me sit on a chair facing her, not too close, not too far, and, as though it were a ritual, engages me in conversation, just at the edges, not too close, not too far, of intimacy. Strange conversations we have, and I feel at ease, and I feel on edge, and she knows that I am longing for her in every fibre of my being, and she knows that she can play with me, as a cat can with a mouse, half in earnest, half for fun, and I will hang on her every word, for she has that power. You see, the whole thing is rather strange. It's seduction at a level I've never encountered before, and all the more intense as she's about to be married. And now she suddenly announces that she can meet me in Rijeka, for she knows that I am planning to leave for the coast quite soon. I will come alone, she says, and we can be together under the stars. But don't say anything to anyone, or it will disappear. This will be our secret. Almost insane with joy, I walked home. Bayer kept looking up at me as he played his guitar, but he didn't say anything. And now it's taking some time to get over. And she's never given me any real explanation. She just said, "I'm sorry. I can't meet you in Rijeka. I'm sorry." And that was all she said. And she dropped her eyes and walked away. Some evenings we spend around the table on the terrace of the cafe in the village centre. Here the lads of the village hang out, and I get to know all of Baya's friends. One of them especially I like, Ivan, a big, simple chap, always looking for fun. His gigantic laugh amuses Baya, he being as loud and jovial as Baya is quiet and contemplative. Contemplative. It's difficult to pronounce that word sometimes. Contemplative. Every summer an old gaffer arrives in Vrpolje with a cartload of watermelons. He stays with them until they're all sold, at night lying down on the ground and sleeping beside them. Ivan tiptoes up one evening and steals one off the pile as we watch on from the cafe over the road, our breath held lest the vendor awaken. Ivan comes back triumphant, the melon stuck up his jumper as though he was heavily pregnant. We all retire to his house and eat great slices of the fruit and drink hot milk. Hot milk. The day arrives for the long-awaited pilgrimage to Dragotino. Everyone's been talking excitedly about it. I can see that it's indeed a big event. "Don't worry," Bayard said to me. "You won't find yourself having to take part in the religious ceremony. The older people do that in the church. We, the boys and the girls, are all outside on the tombs in the moonlight." We're going to walk there, so in the late afternoon we set off, taking paths which twist and turn through the fields of maize. There are 4 of us, Baya, Yasminka, Ivan and I. We pass other groups on the way, some walking, some in carts. Thousands of people for miles around are converging on Dragotino. "Why is the festival so important?" I asked Baya. "It's the Assumption of the Holy Virgin Mary into heaven." "Ah." All right, I get it. Not being a Catholic, I'm a little unversed in all that, but yeah. Okay, got it. We pass lonely cottages on the edges of the fields and the woods, the inhabitants of which bring refreshments to us, lemonade, slivovitz, like that, cakes. The sun goes down and a brilliant red lights up the sky in the west. The stars come out and the moon, swollen like Mary with child, rises up in the heavens. As we approach the hill, we hear the gay tinkling of an accordion. The hill's lit up with lights. Tents and stalls sell drink and food. The church, perched on the top, blazes with candlelight. We circumvent the procession and come to the tombs on the other side, where hundreds of young people are gathered, lying on blankets spread out, just as Baya has said, beneath the moon. We find a contingent from Vrpolje, amongst whom Ruzica and Lilia, 2 to set my pulse racing for a start, and another girl whom I haven't met before. Her name's Vesna. She's from Bosnia. Raven-haired and flashing-eyed. Baya doesn't know her, so he can't introduce us, but he whispers to me, "Watch out for this one." Baya's amused by my reaction to all the girls I'm meeting. He can see how bashful I am. "You're so slow," he says to me, shaking his wise head. "They all like you, just waiting for you to say something." Vera would sort you out. She would have sorted